Peace. Islam. Elayoe. Sheekamauga Alamassee-El. Coming at y'all live. Deep, deep, deep down. Alamassee Arabian country. Deep in Arabia. Deep in the compound. You know. 2 drops in one night. You know, we doing a marathon. I was trying to make it 1 drop, but folks kept hitting the line and interrupting. So, you know how that goes. So just thought I would go ahead and break them up, you feel me? You know what I'm saying? Like all eyes on me. 1 and 2, you dig? In this particular drop, we're gonna talk about the historic Ben-Ishmeal tribe. Historic so-called nation, so-called group of Muslims or Moors that was kind of after 1865. They were just kind of a large family, a large clan. They were really just all they was just just Moors that was up in Indiana, Ohio, and they were still practicing the Muslim Moorish culture. You know what I'm saying? Like the Europeans, the new settler clown Europeans that came in after 1865. These settler immigrant clowns. They came in and they wanted to misnomer these people as a so-called Ben-Ishmeal tribe. You know what I'm saying? But we're gonna talk about how the historic Ben-Ishmeal tribe was it was demonized and denationalized in late 1800s, around the time of 1877 on going towards 1900. They ran a whole big smear campaign. These Europeans, these racist settlers or whatever, these more hating Islam hating settlers, these industrialists, they kind of came to power after the so-called Civil War, after the Confederacy was gone and all that. After the Moorish Confederacy was gone, it's kind of just subdued. These industrialist Northern Yankee carpetbagger immigrant settler clowns. You know what I'm saying? They sat up here and ran a whole smear campaign against the so-called Ben-Ishmeal tribe, which wasn't nothing but like the El Rukin Moors that was all deep through the Midwest. And it's crazy because these people are still in these places now, like Indiana, Ohio, Illinois, you know what I'm saying? All up and down the Mississippi, all up to Chicago, Milwaukee, all that. You know what I'm saying? These Moes are still in these places, you know what I'm saying? But they had they had a group of people called the Ben-Ishmeal tribe. And what's interesting is these industrious carpetbagger Yankee settler Europeans, you know what I'm saying? These clowns, they did a whole smear campaign against the so-called Ben-Ishmeal tribe. And there was kind of centered in Indianapolis, Indiana, in 1877. And they used the so-called Ben-Ishmeals, which was nothing but the El Rukin type of Moors, the Moes, you know what I'm saying? They did a whole smear campaign against these people, and that kind of is what was the whole centerpiece in the media kind of campaign that turned kind of into eugenics. And we all know that eugenics was when they started coming up to this was in the late 1800s when these lighter skinned industrialists started coming up with this. When these lighter skinned industrialists started coming up with all this fake white supremacy nonsense, where they was trying to talk about, and again, we don't really deal, in this demonstration, we don't really deal with color, you know what I'm saying? But they did, this is when the late 1800s is when they came up with this so-called white supremacist type of demonstration in America, because they were trying to create a whole, because again, we already been talking about how so-called white supremacy was always a code word for industrialization. So when they wanted to run an industrial society, they needed these lighter skinned people kind of in socioeconomic higher ranks of society. It wasn't necessarily because any of the stuff was valid as far as like, so-called blacks and Negroes having a low IQ and all that. That was never really valid. These people never believed. The people at the top who created this nonsense, they never believed any of that stuff. You know what I'm saying? But their whole thing was they needed to run an industrialist society. You know what I'm saying? Where everything was, was based on wage working, getting labor, unionization. You know what I'm saying? Everybody getting a wage, not having your own businesses, not, shutting down Moorish businesses and shutting down American like entrepreneurial spirit, shutting down the American independence and entrepreneurial spirit in favor of more industrialist, communist type of economic practices that they wanted to. And, essentially that's what kind of the Civil War was, because the Northern industrialists, the Moors was getting so much money. The Moors was getting so much money in the South, running their own businesses and having family having family businesses and stuff like that, like mob style in the South, running plantations and having mob style businesses in the South, getting money within their families. The Northern industrialists needed to shut that down, and after the so-called Civil War was over, they had to continue with that nonsense. You know what I'm saying? So they needed to come up with the whole eugenics demonstration, which was this fake white supremacy stuff. You know what I'm saying? It kind of make the so-called darker people, which was the Moors, the Islamic Moors, they needed to make them look hella primitive and inept and genetically inferior to so-called white people. You know what I'm saying? Like they needed to come up with this whole propaganda, and it really started. And what we're going to start to understand and realize is that a lot of that so-called white supremacist, Negro low IQ type of like that Negro lazy low IQ type of propaganda that came out of the eugenics movement in the late 1800s. It really started with the so-called Ben-Ishmeal tribe, which was the Moors. Because again, these industrialists, communist Yankee clowns, they hate Islam. You know what I'm saying? So their whole thing, the beginning of the eugenics movement was trying to turn the Islamic culture, the old Moroccan American Islamic culture, they needed to turn that culture into the most criminal, worst thing that exists on the planet. Us practicing our old Islamic culture, they had to be criminalized and demonized. You know what I'm saying? And of course, these people, again, they hate Islam, so they never wanted to admit that the culture was Islamic, but they were running the propaganda. But they started to use all of these so-called terms, like inherently lazy or criminal or vagabonds or pauperism and all of that. And the main basis of them, of course, again, they were trying to denationalize and criminalize the Islamic Moors of America. You know what I'm saying? The Mississippian Moors, they were trying to denationalize and criminalize our culture. But the main thing that they were trying to drive home, this was their main play. They wanted to say the so-called Moors or the Ben-Ishmeal people who were practicing the Islamic culture in the Midwest, they tried to say they were lazy. You know what I'm saying? That was the main thing. And the main reason they didn't like the Ben-Ishmeal, the main beef they had with the Moors, aside from just the fact that they hate Islam and everything, was that these people did not participate in that wage-working culture. That wage-working United States citizen unionization communist culture where you go get a job and do wage labor. No, these people had their own economy. So they were moving around, getting money on their own demonstration. So to the Northern Yankee commie clowns, that was an inferior, like they had to go. So if you're not sitting here working for a factory, getting a job, working for some gang old commie industrialist clowns, then you are a lazy pauper. To these people, that was pretty much the demonstration. And you're a low IQ lazy pauper because you won't go work in a factory and be a damn wage worker. And to a degree, that's still the same culture that exists today. They literally, even to this day, they hate small business and they hate independent American entrepreneurial type of culture. You know what I'm saying? So if you're not sitting up here working for these people, working for an industry or working at Amazon or doing any of this stuff, they don't like that. So they've always come up with ways to demonize any group of people with their own damn economy who don't want to be a goddamn communist wage worker. You know what I'm saying? So we're gonna just do the knowledge on the so-called Ben-Ishmeal tribe of Illinois, Indiana. And Illinois, Indiana, that was in the late 1800s. And how these new European settler communist industrialist clowns used negative propaganda against the Ben-Ishmeal tribe to come up with the eugenics movement, which was basically the foundation of all the white supremacist rhetoric that came into the so-called white supremacist rhetoric that came into the 1900s that kind of dominated the politics of the so-called United States all throughout the 1900s. You know what I'm saying? So we're just going to see the start of that again. So this is what separates the moles and the real ones from all of these other clowns. You got these clowns online and be running their damn mouth. Oh, white supremacy. Oh, white supremacy. Oh, it's so racist. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Oh, the so-called blacks can't do nothing. Oh, we was just some damn slaves in the Confederacy. Oh, blah, blah, blah. Just running their mouth crying like little girls. You know what I'm saying? These be some grown-ass men online up here crying day and night every day about being some about some damn white supremacy and how they just can't do nothing. And they buck broken and they just like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't even understand how as a man you go to sleep at night. You can sleep at night with your wife, any woman or your children, and see yourself as a man. Talk about, white supremacy. Oh, in America, it's our black man, so-called black man can't do nothing because we in a global system of white supremacy. Just goofball stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like, bruh. But see, again, This is the difference between these goofies, you know what I'm saying, and the Moors. See, we come with a real Mo is finna come with a whole political breakdown of what it's really about. We're gonna actually do the knowledge, read, research, and study, and figure out what all this stuff comes from. And we're gonna deal with it in a form of kind of a national politics and a national understanding, and an international understanding, and a political understanding, a true political understanding. You know what I'm saying? We ain't gonna just do some color coded kindergarten mess talking about some dang old white supremacy. Oh, I'm so damn racist, and we just can't do nothing. And we were just some damn slaves, man. For real, man. For real. Like we've been saying, when you see clowns like this who have been wasting your time for years and years and years, man, you catch these people outside. I'm telling you, when you catch these people outside, chomp their asses off. These are like little effeminate clown type of men. You know what I'm saying? Like any man that's sitting up here crying about it's so racist and some white supremacist and he's a buck broken type of man. You know what I'm saying? Like for real, man. I mean, for real, man. Like, no, you can't call yourself a grown man or a grown woman and actually follow clowns like this. I mean, it just don't make no damn sense, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, these people don't want to grow up. They don't want to be leaders. They don't want to handle their own affairs, be their own state. They don't want to be their own bosses. They don't want to represent themselves in the real affairs, the international affairs of men. They don't want to be real men. They don't want to do nothing. They don't want to be accountable. You know what I'm saying? They just want to sit up here and cry like little kindergartners talking about some white daddy oppressed me and put me down. Like straight up bitches, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, for real, bro. Like, honestly, I don't even understand how these fools can call themselves men and women and sleep at night. You know what I'm saying? I personally don't get it. You know what I'm saying? I get it. Is the money worth it? You know what I'm saying? If you can't give me enough money, you can't give me enough money to be an emasculated biatch. You know what I'm saying? You just can't. There's no money. There's not enough money in the world for me to accept that nonsense. You know what I'm saying? Like for real, man. Because at the end of the day, you got to go back and answer to Allah. You know what I'm saying? Like what Allah gonna say about you when you just set up? Oh yeah, I spent my life complaining about some fake white supremacy, and I was just not enough of a man to do anything. Man, come on, bro. Like man. Y'all are really lost without the moles, man. You know what I'm saying? But we're gonna break a lot of this stuff down, and we're gonna break down the stuff to the origin of a lot of this current modern, so-called fake eugenics type of politics we've been dealing with for a long time. You know what I'm saying? And we're gonna really break it down and show that the original source of eugenics was just really anti-Islam. You know what I'm saying? Because our people were practicing Islam by and large. And Mississippi people were practicing Islam and so-called Yahudi culture in America by and large. So that culture had to be criminalized and demonized for the industrial agenda to prevail. You know what I'm saying? So check it out. Because again, these communist industrialist clowns, they hate religion. You know what I'm saying? Because religion is the source of the Asiatic people's power. It always has been. Well, so, saying the spiritual understanding of the higher supreme primordial consciousness. You know what I'm saying? That's always been the source of the Asiatic people's power. So they hate religion. You know what I'm saying? They hate spirituality. So they have to demonize it. It's just like, you don't need to believe in God or any of that stuff. You need to believe in some type of idol, and you need to come work for us and do in a factory and be a wage worker. You know what I'm saying? That's all it's about, because it's all about industry. You know what I'm saying? And Satanism, of course. You know what I'm saying? Let's not leave that out. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, so we're gonna talk about the Ben-Ishmeal, the so-called Ben-Ishmeal tribe, which was really just the Midwest Confederacy of Moors. You know what I'm saying? It was still up there, but they come up with these goofy names. They call them the Ben-Ishmeal tribe. But check them out. We're gonna talk about them. So, now the historic Ben-Ishmeal tribe was known to be the main group of the so-called Ishmaelites, the Ishmaelites of the Midwest, the old Midwest in Kentucky in that area. The main group of the Ishmaelites that was studied was headquartered in Indianapolis, Indiana, around the time of 1877, and understand, so-called Indianapolis, Indiana. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I grew up in Chicago. You know what I'm saying? And if you ride through Indianapolis, that is a Moorish town if you ever gonna see one in your life. I mean, if you ride through the hood, so-called hood of Indianapolis, man, all these old Moorish homes, Victorian homes. And I ain't been there in a long time, but you know what I'm saying? Like the hood is hella Moorish up in so-called Indianapolis. You know what I'm saying? A lot of the old Moorish buildings been torn down and all that nonsense, like they do with every last one of our Moorish towns. But make no mistake, so-called Indianapolis is a old Moorish city, old Moorish town. You know what I'm saying? And these goofball industrialist settler clowns was never allowed to go there until after 1816, because those are old holy Moorish cities like Indianapolis, Indiana. You know what I'm saying? Don't get it messed up. You know what I'm saying? So check it out. All right, so the Ben-Ishmeal, again, we've already talked about how it used to be something called the Northwest Confederacy, and Tecumseh, his whole demonstration and all that, Tenskwell Tower, the Prophet's Town, and all that. They fought the United States. They fought the so-called United States after the Revolutionary War. They kind of kept them the United States out of Ohio. By and large, the United States so-called settlers, by and large, out of Ohio country in the Midwest area. You know what I'm saying? All the way up until around the time of the War of 1812. You know what I'm saying? That's the old Midwest Confederacy. But this was a Moorish army. A Moorish Confederacy, a Moorish army that was in Ohio, Indiana, or Illinois country. You know what I'm saying? So you would have saw some Moorish cavalry, some turbaned up Moors with cannons, guns, and all that. You know what I'm saying? Like that was the old Midwest Confederacy. And the last remnants of that are these so-called Ben-Ishmeal people. You know what I'm saying? That's exactly who they are. You know what I mean? The Tecumseh, Tenskwell Tower, those brothers. You know what I'm saying? The Ohio brothers, the Bone Thugs brothers. You know what I'm saying? The Do or Die Crucial Conflict brothers. You feel me? The Jeff Ford L. Rukin. You know what I'm saying? All these folk, man, these are the Ben-Ishmeals. You know what I'm saying? Don't get it messed up. But the only difference is, around the time of 1877, when they were studying these people, and these Europeans was coming up in there doing these fake studies, you know what I'm saying, trying to demonize these people were still outright and open and practicing Moorish culture. So 1877, you would have saw Moorish zones in Indianapolis with niggas walking around with their turbans on and they long tunics and all that. Like literally they was practicing Moorish. So you would have saw a bunch of turbaned up niggas in Indianapolis, Indiana, in Cincinnati, in Louisville, you know what I'm saying? In Champaign-Urbana, Illinois, in Peoria, you know what I'm saying? In Kankakee, in Mahomet, in Morocco, Indiana, in Chicago, all that, you know what I'm saying? Niggas was still up in the Midwest, turbaned up, rocking their stuff. And that's why they was going after these people. That's why they was trying to demonize these people and criminalize these people, because they needed to get rid of that Moorish culture, and all these niggas was up there still practicing. So you would have saw straight up Moes, turbaned up and everything, Chief Malik up and everything, up in Indianapolis in 1877. It literally says that, you know what I'm saying, in the article. You feel me? So check it out. It says the so-called historic Ben-Ishmeal tribe, they were poor upland southern, so-called poor, this is cap, because these people weren't poor worth a damn. These people was not poor, you know what I'm saying? They just, again, they wanted to make these people look like they were vagabonds and nobodies, you know what I'm saying? But these people were doing their thing, trust and believe. So okay, it said poor upland southern residents of Indianapolis, Indiana. And they were supposedly associated with the Ishmael family, okay? And they all had a surname of Ishmael. And we're gonna do the knowledge towards the end of this drop about why these people were called the Ben-Ishmeal tribe and who they really descend from. You know what I'm saying? The great Muslim sultan that they really descend from, the Ben-Ishmeal. We're gonna talk about who they really, you know what I'm saying, the name that they carry on and all of that. You know what I'm saying? But okay. Now they did say in the article talking about the Ben-Ishmeals. They said they originally hailed from Cumberland County, Pennsylvania, which is cap. You know what I'm saying? These are just the Midwest Moors. They don't hail from they was all over the damn Midwest. They was all over Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Wisconsin, all that. And these people are still there. You know what I'm saying? Don't get them messed up. The Mississippian people are still in these places. You go to Indianapolis, there's a lot of Mississippians in Indianapolis. You go to Gary, Indiana, that's a Mississippian town. Chicago, Mississippian town. Kankakee, a Mississippian town. You know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? Peoria, Mississippian town. You know what I mean? Like, come on, bro. Like, for real. East St. Louis, all that. You know what I'm saying? So check it out. Let's see. All right, let's see. All right, so this, okay. It said that allegedly their great patriarch was a man named Benjamin Ishmeal, and he allegedly served in the Continental Army. You know what I'm saying? But we're going to do the knowledge to how, you know, that's just a story, and who these people really descend from. Because we're reading the official history written by Europeans. So you always got to take what they say with a grain of salt, because they're very biased and they don't like Moors and they don't like Islam like that. You know what I'm saying? So you have to take what they say, read between the lines with a grain of salt. You know what I'm saying? But there was a brother who came. There was a brother and a lot of others that came in the 70s after the so-called Black Power movement and all that, where brothers was like not playing with these Europeans and they was like kind of correcting a lot of stuff in that era. There was a brother that came in the 70s and kind of told a lot of the real story about the Ben-Ishmeal tribe, hence what we know about them today. And he was a Moor. Don't get it messed up. You know what I'm saying? He even talked about Noble Drew Ali and everything in his book, and this is in 1977. You know what I'm saying? So check the game out. So it said that the Ishmaelites or the Ishmaels, they were known for abstaining from the wage labor economy of Indianapolis, or just the wage labor economy. And they received attention from eugenics advocates. So again, we just talked about the main beef that these people had, because especially up north, even in the South and everything, okay, the main thing, these industrialists who was really coming to power after 1871, you know what I'm saying? And we've already done the knowledge to the history of U.S. extraterritorial rights. We know that in 1871, the Sultan of Morocco, who was over here, not over there, you know what I'm saying, more than likely up in Chicago, he asked the so-called United States. He wanted to put the whole country of Morocco under United States protectorate. You know what I'm saying? So that's really why the West, why they ran all the Buffalo Soldiers and everything out in the West, and the West got heavily settled after 1871. Because the Sultan asked the United States to put it under American protectorate. He didn't really like these folks like that, but he understood that, again, a lot of these United States people had been, at a point in history, they were under the Moorish Moroccans. They were Janissaries. A lot of them descend from a lot of Janissaries and stuff. They've been around us for long enough. And the Sultan at that time in 1871, he felt like, well, I'd rather have these people hold down the fort, even though they're going to tear everything up, which they have. You know what I'm saying? At least they're going to keep everything more or less together until we get our stuff together. Like now, a lot of us are starting to come into who we really are. You feel me? So 1871. That's when the Sultan asked the United States to pretty much run out west and lock down the West. That's why the West got locked down after 1871. You know what I'm saying? And the Wild Wild West and all that stuff. That's really what that was about. They got permission from the Sultan to do all that. Don't ever get it messed up. You know what I'm saying? And that's why they called all the brothers and sisters out there who wasn't really trying to capitulate to the United States. They called them all renegades. There was a lot of renegade towns. And you can look at The Harder They Fall, that movie on Netflix. You know what I'm saying? Even though they use a lot of, it's really a fictional movie, but they did have like that, the brother who, Idris Elba playing Rufus Buck. He was his town, I forget the name of his town or whatever, but his town would have been considered a renegade town because he wasn't trying to capitulate. He was a Moorish man, Moorish cowboy, all that, but he wasn't trying to capitulate the settlement. And you remember Regina King's character. They brought everybody to the town square in that Moorish town, and she said, "All right, y'all, they finna open everything up to settlement." This was in like 1870s, you know what I'm saying? So they basically telling you in that movie that's when the United States was finna run all them settlers out there, but they don't tell you that they got the permission from the Sultan at the time to do that. Hassan the First, look it up. You know what I'm saying? So just doing the knowledge, man. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So these people, they didn't like the Ishmaelites, the so-called Ishmaelites of the Midwest, Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, you know what I'm saying, Illinois. They didn't like these Ishmaelite people who are just the Moors, you know what I'm saying? They regular niggas. They just Moors who still inhabit. They still rocking their turbans and doing all that and doing their thing, you know what I'm saying? The Ishmaelites, because the Ishmaelites were not working for Europeans. The Ishmaelites had their own economy. They was getting their own money. You know what I'm saying? They did whatever they had to do. They used to move around. They did their pilgrimages, but they might have collected taxes. They might have did the Moorish tax. They had their own underground economy. So anybody who did that and was not trying to work for no damn Europeans, being a damn wage worker, they had to be criminalized. That's literally what it said. They said that they did not like the Ishmaelites because they abstained from the wage labor economy. They wanted everybody working for them. You know what I'm saying? So any Moors, Mississippian who was doing their own thing, you was a target back then. I mean, you was always a target. They always came at our people for working for our damn selves and having our own thing. You know what I'm saying? But it was real serious back then. They was like, we got these Moors about to paint so we can industrialize everything. Everybody need to come work for us. You know what I'm saying? So check it out. Okay. So it says, dealing with the Ishmaelites of the Ben-Ishmeal tribe of, it said in 1877, a man named Oscar McCullough and his assistant James Frank Wright, let's see. they published a report on let me see. Okay, in 1877, these are these eugenics clowns, you know what I'm saying? These hating racist eugenics clowns, you know what I'm saying? They published a report in 1877 on the tribe of Ishmael, which is just the Moors, the Mississippian Moors, you know what I'm saying? And they used the family, they used the so-called Ishmael family, which is, again, it's just the Moors. You know what I'm saying? It's a family, but it's just Moors doing their thing. Literally, these Moors have been in Ohio, Indiana since time immemorial. These are so-called Indiana and Illinois and all that are really considered the plains of Morocco. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just what it is. So these are Moroccans in Morocco, and these Europeans sitting up there hating on them. You know what I'm saying? So it said that they used this report that these clowns made in 1877 on the Ishmaelites to argue for sterilization laws called the Indiana Plan. So these clowns sitting up there, these racist clowns, they done straight up had meetings and created whole sterilization laws in Indiana, because they saw these Moors. They wanted these Moors out. You know what I'm saying? They literally trying to do a genocide on the Mississippi Moors up in the Midwest. And you can tell they was really going at these Moors hard, because in the Midwest now, Indiana, Ohio, and all these places. Now, we know these are the plains of Morocco. So our people, the Ishmaelites, the Moors, used to move around these areas freely. We had towns all over Ohio, all over Indiana, free Moorish towns all over the damn place. All over Illinois, all over Ohio, all over Wisconsin, all over Missouri. You know what I'm saying? All that stuff. We have free Moorish towns just doing a damn thing. But if you go to the Midwest, you go to Illinois, you go to Indiana, I mean, literally to this day, they got a lot of the Mississippian people congregated in cities, and all of the rural areas in Ohio, Indiana, Illinois is full of Europeans. And these people are racist as hell. You know what I'm saying? Like, they say Indiana, they say Illinois literally had 500 sundown towns. You know what I'm saying? In the 1900s, bro. You know what I'm saying? And they had a hell of them. They had a lot of them in Indiana. Like, literally, you'll go to like all these old Moorish towns where they done ran the Moors out, and they'll be like 90-some% European. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. But you could just tell they were real racist, and they had a lot of they really could not stand these Ishmaelite people up in those places, because it used to be all us. You know what I'm saying? There used to be a Mississippian Moorish zone up there, holy zone, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, all that. You know what I'm saying? So to this day, like, literally, if you leave the cities in those areas, I mean, it is European as hell, and there's a lot of sundown towns. Look at there's a place called Anna, Illinois. You know what I'm saying? Historic, very hella racist sundown town in Illinois. It's called Anna. And they say that Anna means ain't no niggas allowed. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's because, again, those are the old plains of Morocco, very Islamic turf. So they needed to take us away from a lot of these holy zones, and a lot of these get us away from a lot of these old Moorish towns, because they had a lot of, there was a lot of good land in Illinois. There's a lot of good fertile farmland. There's a lot of resources to be controlled in these places. So they needed to get the Moors up out the paint and put these Europeans all into place. You know what I'm saying? So it's just very interesting if you look at the setup of the Midwest now. These are places where the Moors used to dominate. You know what I'm saying? So, all right. So it said the study of the Ishmaelites and the demonization of the Ishmaelites of the tribe of Ben-Ishmeal also led to the passage of the Immigration Act of 1924. And we just doing the introduction. But it also said, and we're gonna talk about this a little while. Hugo Prosper Lemmy. He came in 1970 in the 70s, I think 1977, and he wrote this book called The Ben-Ishmeal Tribe, a Fugitive Nation of the Old Northwest. And again, they had wrote a lot of articles on a lot of biased, so-called racist articles on the Ben-Ishmeal tribe in the early 1900s. But this brother came in the 70s, and he corrected all that stuff. He gave us the real science of who these Moors really were. You know what I'm saying? All right, so let's do the knowledge. So, all right, we're going to talk about Oscar McCullough, because he was the original eugenicist who came with that nonsense. You know what I'm saying? And it's interesting that he published it in 1877, because, again, we know, doing the knowledge on U.S. extraterritorial rights and the history of diplomacy with Morocco, we know that in 1877, again, understand, after the Civil War, the United States was still doing a lot of secret diplomacy with the Sultan. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was still going on. So a lot of the people, a lot of the politics of what was happening at the time, they were still politicking with the Sultan back then. You know what I'm saying? So the Sultan, the Moroccan Sultan, literally asked the United States in 1877, because again, the Civil War was over and a lot of our people was in POW status and all that stuff. So he was kind of like down. He was like, man, my people need to have a pathway back to Moroccan jurisdiction. So it's historically known, if you do the research and dig, that the Sultan of Morocco, Hassan I, asked the United States in 1877 to allow people to his subjects, the Moroccan subjects, the Mississippian people, to be able to come back to the Moroccan jurisdiction. And the United States is known for telling that man hell to the no in 1877. You know what I'm saying? So basically, they told Hassan I, the Moroccan Sultan, in 1877, the United States told him that we're going to keep, after this Civil War, we got all your people under martial law, POW, especially in the South and all that. We're going to keep them under the 14th Amendment, and we're going to keep them naturalized, and we're going to keep naturalizing them into the so-called United States, which is what the 14th Amendment was all about. Because initially, naturalization only applied to so-called Europeans. You know what I'm saying? So those are the only people that can be naturalized into the so-called United States. The Moors could not be naturalized into the so-called United States. You know what I'm saying? I mean, legally and all that. You know what I'm saying? So in when they came with the 14th Amendment, that's really when all that nonsense kicked off. You feel me? Where they were naturalizing our people under these Negro black colored demonstrations. You know what I'm saying? So the Sultan of Morocco, Hassan I, most likely up in Chicago, asked the United States to cut that mess out. You know what I'm saying? Let my people come back home. And they told him hell to the no. So then, you notice, after that, they came out with the Compromise 1877, and they had all these Redeemer Democrats and KKK terrorists all in the South. Because the whole play was, really all over the country. They came up with a new version of the KKK, and the White League and the Red Shirt terrorists. You know what I'm saying? Their whole thing was they wanted to terrorize our people. Because we were already under martial law, we couldn't go nowhere. They were preventing us from moving around all over the damn country, in a lot of places, mainly in the South. So they wanted to come up with these terrorist tactics to terrorize our people, keep us terrorized, keep us in a state of absolute terror and fear. So we would never go back to being Moroccans. They needed to keep us Negroes and blacks and whatever for long enough for them to have decades and decades to raid the land and the resources so we would not get their ass about the paint. That's all it was about. So look up the Compromise 1877. Learn that that's the same year the Sultan asked the United States to allow his people to come back to Morocco. They said hell to the no. They stand under the 14th Amendment, and they gonna stay. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna keep on naturalizing them into the so-called United States. You know what I'm saying? That's exactly what happened. So it's interesting that, again, you would have had a Compromise 1877 with these Redeemer Democrats put all into the South as KKK terrorists. You know what I'm saying? And in the same year, this is when this guy, McCullough, published this report on the Ishmaelites of the Midwest. So you could tell they was going hard in 1877 after they told the Sultan hell to the no. We keeping these fools in POW status, you know what I'm saying? And we got to terrorize their minds so they won't be Moroccan no more, because they know they can't say nothing to a Moroccan, but they can say something to a Negro, goofies, you know what I'm saying? So check it out. So it said Oscar McCullough moved to Indianapolis in 1877. It said this was a period of widespread poverty. Many urban poor were migrants from Kentucky, Tennessee, and VA Upland. And what that sound like? So-called urban poor. We don't know if these people were really poor or not. It could have been a bad situation because the war had just happened. You got these industrialist clowns coming around, ruining the old economy and messing up everything. You know what I'm saying? That's what they do. They ruin the economy. They create poverty and degradation wherever they go. These industrialist communist clowns, for real. So I'm not surprised if there was poverty in Indianapolis at that time. It was created by these clowns. You know what I'm saying? So, but it said the urban poor. So that means it's the Moorish neighborhood or the so-called hood of Indianapolis. And it's funny because if you go to Indianapolis, even in the so-called hood, they got these big old nice Victorian houses in the so-called hood. You know what I'm saying? So they were still living good. They living better than the shantytown, goofball, and all these orphan Europeans coming around here. You better believe that. You feel me? You know what I'm saying? So check it out. All right, now it said it was okay. So he moved there. He noticed the widespread poverty of the urban poor, and that's basically the hood. You know what I'm saying? Indianapolis is still there now. He said large family. There was a large family with the surname of Ishmael, which is the Moors. You know what I'm saying? They said they became the subject of a decade-long study. It said McCullough took inspirations from another man named Richard Richard Dugalis study on the so-called Jukes, the Juke family of upstate New York. Let me say that again. There's another man, a eugenicist clown, who did a study on this other Moorish family of upstate New York, probably descended from the Mohawk, the Iroquois, and all these people. Their name was the Jukes. It was the Juke family. So that's how you know they was Moors, and there's Mississippians. Don't they have juke joints in the South? Don't they got dances now to this day called juking? You know what I'm saying? So who was the Juke family? Man, come on, man. Let's just get for real, bro. For real, man. I mean, for real, bro. Don't nobody really do the knowledge like the Moes. I mean, you know what I'm saying? We just, again, this is Big Daddy. This is Vito Corleone, and y'all is Fredo. You know what I'm saying? Y'all go out on fishing trips and don't come back type shit. You know what I'm saying? Like get out of here with the nonsense. But okay, so it says, all right, so okay, it says in 1888, McCullough went public. He did a whole 10-year study on the so-called Ben-Ishmeal tribe or whatever in Indiana. In 1888, he went public as president of the Indianapolis Benevolent Society in a speech at National Conference of Charities and Corrections in Buffalo, New York. Now, that's another thing, because it said that McCullough was part of the so-called Indianapolis Benevolent Society. Now, even to this day, y'all can go around and y'all gonna see all of these fake benevolent organizations and all these fake church organizations with Europeans and all foreigners and all type of goofies and silly NBCs. Always trying to sit out here doing charity work and benevolent work and all type of garbage. You know what I'm saying? Like trying to pretend like they helping somebody, but all they're doing is assisting and continue to denationalize our people. You know what I'm saying? But it just said that this eugenicist racist clown, he was a part of the damn Indianapolis Benevolent Society, but he sit up here writing articles calling people like degenerates and denationalizing Moorish people and talk about they are hereditary criminals and all type of stuff. But he part of a benevolent society. Man, kill yourself. You know what I'm saying? When you see these clowns out here acting like they cool with you, coming in your neighborhood trying to bring you the so-called, you know what I'm saying, bring you to Jesus and all type of nonsense, you know what I'm saying? You already know the play is in. It was in back then. You know what I'm saying? Well, check it out. It said he compared the family to, okay, this is a speech he made in Buffalo, New York in 1888. He talked about the Ben-Ishmeal tribe, you know what I'm saying? He said he compared the family to Succulenta parasites. These are crustacean parasites. The Succulenta parasites. It said that they had, okay, this is where they get into the same talking points a lot of these people use today. These white supremacist talking points. It said that he said the Ben-Ishmeal people, they had an irresistible hereditary tendency of pauperism. So when you see these people online running their damn mouth, all these fake studies of Dick Fuentes and all these clowns, when they say, oh, crime is genetic to so-called blacks, you know, crime is, y'all are genetically predisposed to crime. You commit 75% disproportional amount of crime. All that stuff, all these type of talking points, they come from the eugenicist initial study of the so-called Ben-Ishmeal Moors of the Midwest. These are the same talking points. You know what I'm saying? So it said that he said that they had an irresistible hereditary tendency of pauperism, the Ben-Ishmeals, and he said that they were draining the city of Indianapolis of resources and making problems by receiving charity. And I would like to see what type of charity they was receiving. You know what I'm saying? Like, what charity do you goofy industrialists have to offer these people when they on their own land, when they know how to get money on their own land? It don't even make no damn sense, bro. Get out of here, man. You know what I'm saying? All right, so let's see. Now it said when he was doing the study, he said the number of so-called Ishmael families, I guess that he was studying in Indianapolis, it was about 30 families. So that just goes to show how you gonna have, he talking about one family, but it said he was studying about 30 Ishmael families in Indianapolis. That ain't just one family. That's a whole goddamn old nation of people. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's a whole group of people. So that means most of the Mississippians in Indiana at that time, in Illinois, that means these people were up there practicing Moorish culture in 1877, in 1888, it was a bunch of niggas up there still practicing Moorish culture out in the open. They was rocking their turbans. They was straight up looking like Noble Drew Ali. So when you see Noble Drew Ali taking them pictures with the Moors, where they like 100 deep and all that, these people were still practicing their culture out in the open back in those days up in the Midwest. These are the same people. These are the same Ben-Ishmeal people. This is 1877. 1888. He just said there's 30 Ishmael families in Indianapolis. That means they was Moors. They was turbaned up Moors in Indianapolis. You know what I'm saying? In a whole hood, in a whole neighborhood full of them. You know what I'm saying? Man, get out of here, man. You know what I'm saying? Okay. And it said that one thing that caused McCullough to use the Ishmael family and focus on them was their association with the so-called Orient. You know what I'm saying? And the Orient just means the Moors, the Oriental people. You know what I'm saying? They wore the turbans, they wore the ornate clothing and all of that. So that also goes to show that they were going on an anti-Orient type of campaign. They were trying to create a corporate American culture that was very anti-Orient. And not they're like they associate Oriental with like these Mongoloid looking people. But back in those days, Orient just meant Moorish. It meant the Asiatic Moorish culture. That was the Oriental culture. You know what I'm saying? So all right, let's continue. It said, okay. In the report that this guy McCullough guy did on the Ishmaels, it said that they had a wandering blood, and they were gypsies, and they were like gypsies, and they traveled regularly. He said that their lifestyle was encouraged by unlimited public and private aid. Okay, so. Again, let me read that again. He said that in his report, it said that the Ishmaels had a wandering blood, and they were like gypsies, and they traveled regularly. And it also said that their lifestyle was encouraged by unlimited public and private aid. Okay, so all that really means is this is all that really means. It means that these industrialist clowns were upset at they were mad at the Ishmaelites because they had their own economy. They did not have to depend on wage labor and engage in and get involved in the wage economy in order to survive and sustain themselves. They could get money in their own demonstration. You know what I'm saying? That's why they was hating on them, because he tried to explain it to the rest of the Europeans. Oh, they get public and private aid. Man, that's garbage, man. They just put their money together. They had a neighborhood economy. They put, you know what I'm saying? People were probably still paying a lot of the Moorish tax. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? These people did not depend on wage work to survive, and they probably were living pretty damn good. And these Europeans were sitting up there hating, because they didn't know how to get money in America like we know how to get money. We could get money. We could get money through our networks and sustain ourselves and put our bread together. We didn't have to go work wage jobs back in those days. We could get money on our own. And thrive on our own. And so this goofy European go sit up there and talk about the Ishmaelites, since they not conforming, dressing and acting European, and coming to work in a goddamn factory, they are surviving on public and private aid. Man, they just get their own money. Y'all clowns can't tax that and govern what they do to get money. And they got their own economy and they sustain their damn self. And these clowns was always mad at us when we could do that. You feel me? Industrialists, man. I tell you, bro. Just some goofballs, man. All right, now it said that all right. He also said that a lot of them had large criminal records. They were always in jail. You know, they were always getting arrested and all that. But, you know, you already know that largely stems from they were probably criminalizing a large part of these people's culture. You know what I'm saying? So they might set up, these Moors might have set up little tents on the side of the road and did little magic tricks, you know what I'm saying, doing their thing, and you know what I'm saying, to get money doing their thing or playing music on the road or whatever. You know what I'm saying? And people giving them money to do that. We've always done stuff like that. Or play. You might have had one of these Ishmaelite Moors up in Indianapolis, Indiana. Literally set up a dang old tent. Play the flute and a snake will come out of it. You know what I'm saying? Doing them old Moor magi magic tricks. Get money doing it. You know what I'm saying? Everybody coming up, giving them money and like doing, you know what I'm saying? And these Europeans sit up there hating on that man, talking about that's public aid. Mainly because this war is not depending on a factory job some goddamn where. You know what I'm saying? It's just goofies. You know what I'm saying? So it said that he said also that the Ishmaelites would, and stuff like that would be criminalized. So if they had their own set up on the side of the road getting money, basically they would, stuff that stuff started probably to be criminalized. So they would probably be, they would probably get bagged up and stuff like that after a certain period of time. You know what I'm saying? But he said that the Ishmaelites would underrun society like devil grass. He said that if you pick up one, a whole 5,000 will spring up. He compared the Ishmaelites to devil grass. You know what I'm saying? And he said, due to the force of heredity, each generation would repeat this cycle of crime unless the state intervened. Okay? So again, don't that sound like a lot of these so-called racist, white supremacist talking points that they still use to this day? These people are generationally and genetically predisposed to crime and all this type of nonsense. This is when they were creating these type of talking points, but at that time, it wasn't just this black white thing. It was more so anti-Islam. So if you're still getting demonized, if you're Mississippian to this day, this is how you know your old culture is Islam. If you're getting demonized by this fake white supremacist, black white nonsense now, or so-called black Americans, so-called African Americans, or whatever, are generationally predisposed to crime. They're lazy. They commit a disproportionate amount of crime, all type of stupid shit that these settler clowns are always saying about us, and all these immigrant foreigners are always saying about us. You know what I'm saying? It all started back in the late 1800s when they were breaking up stories about the Islamic Ben-Ishmeal tribe. So a lot of these talking points are really anti-Islam. They know you, so that's your old culture. It just became a race thing when they were able to kind of get us away from remembering we was Moors. They created a straight up race thing after they kind of perfected the whole eugenics ideology. You know what I'm saying? In the early 1900s. You feel me? So check it out. All right. I said, and it also said the state had to intervene. So, excuse me. That's when you would start seeing, okay, the state intervened. Now, don't the state always try to intervene in our lives? Now they got child protective services and all type of nonsense. You know what I'm saying? That was when this stuff started. Back in the late 1800s with the Ben-Ishmeal tribe up in the Midwest, anti-Islam. So to these people, if you're teaching your child like any type of Islamic culture or anything like that, that's what they said the state need to intervene. You know what I'm saying? So this is how they started to get us. It was all mental. They had to terrorize our minds and psychologically damage our minds so we would not be Moors no more. That's what a lot of y'all, again, they had us a POW status. A lot of y'all forgot y'all was Moors because of stuff like this. This is when they were creating them policies in the late 1800s to get you to stop being Moors. And they just telling you that there was thousands and thousands of Ishmaelites all in Indiana, all in Kentucky, all in Illinois. These people were straight up Moors, and they were creating propaganda so they could intervene on these people and take their children and all type of stuff in the late 1800s. You know what I'm saying? So again, all of these so-called white supremacists, fake white supremacist talking points they have today were originally just anti-Moorish and anti-Islam. That was the original play. It became like a race-based color thing later on. You know what I'm saying? That's the whole play. All right, so check it out. Now, it also proposed, this is interesting right here. This is real because this goes on to this day. That's why they go after your kids. It's back in McCullough in his report, he proposed right after he said that they were generationally predisposed to crime, the Ishmaelite Moors, you know what I'm saying? He proposed the main thing they needed to do was get a hold of the children. I'm going to say that again. McCullough proposed that the main thing that the state needed to do to the Ishmaelites of Indiana, Kentucky, and all of that back in the late 1800s was to get a hold of the children. You know what I'm saying? So that just goes to show, even to this day, with all this propaganda and all this sexually confused propaganda where they going after your children, that's when all that mess started. Because the whole thing is to get away from anything conservative, anything spiritual, anything human, anything natural. That's the industrialist agenda is always going to try to get away from anything of that nature. So they were going that. This is when they started a lot of that mess going against the Moors. You know what I'm saying? So it's always been about anti-Moor, always been about anti-Islam and anti-Yahudi. You know what I'm saying? It is what it is. All right. Let's see. All right. Give me 1 second. I'll be back in effect. You know what I'm saying? All right. So, we're gonna talk about how the so-called eugenics movement kind of started with how the eugenics movement kind of came out of the study of the Ishmaelites. Okay, and they said the whole eugenics, and the eugenics is just a fake. You know what I'm saying? Again, we know that the white supremacy again is just is code word for industrialization, but it's not real. You know what I'm saying? It's just a play. It's just it's just psychological propaganda. You know what I'm saying? That's all it is. These people at the top don't care nothing about nobody's damn color. They never have and never will. But it was a play in America to push industrialization. You know what I'm saying? That's all it ever was. You know what I'm saying? So because again, you go to a lot of other countries, there's no such thing as no dang on white and black and all that stuff. It's only here because they needed to industrialize the promised land so they could go everywhere else with the nonsense. You know what I'm saying? There's always a war against the big dogs. You feel me? So now the eugenics rhetoric then we're going to talk about how it came out of the Ishmaelite, the study of the Ishmael tribe of Ben-Ishmeal. So it said families like the Jukes, the Calicacs, the Nams, the Dax, and the Winds. The studies of these families in different places. A lot of them were they were in the Northeast and the Midwest. You know what I'm saying? The studies of these families, these are old Moorish families. You know what I'm saying? Old Moorish, formerly Islamic families, especially like the Jukes and the Ishmaels. You know what I'm saying? These are old Moorish families that they studied. And studies of these families, since the culture they practiced was largely old school Moorish. So they formed the basis of the eugenics movement. So we're just trying to do the knowledge to the fact that a lot of the eugenics and fake so-called racist rhetoric that came in the 1900s was really started off as anti-Islam. You know what I'm saying? Anti-Moorish. They needed us to get away from that Moorish culture because, again, they needed to keep us away from going back to the jurisdiction of Morocco for long enough for them to raid the land. You know what I'm saying? They had to do whatever they had to do. You feel me? So, all right. I'm about to, you know what I'm saying? They said they started making up pedigree charts to determine it. Based on these families, they started making up pedigree charts. The eugenicists in like the early 1900s, they made up pedigree charts to determine character flaws like laziness, which were at times deemed hereditary. So they started deeming a lot of our people so-called lazy. And the main reason they tried to deem us as lazy is because a lot of our people we had land, we had farms, we had, you know what I'm saying? We knew how to get money in America and not really necessarily bust our ass every day on somebody's damn clock. You know what I'm saying? On somebody's time clock. We had our own businesses and stuff. So to these new industrialists coming in, that was lazy. You might have had brothers and sisters in the South that had their own cotton farms. These brothers and sisters might have had a heavy work season where they had to pick a lot of cotton and then they would go get their money, and the rest of the damn year they was chilling. So these new Europeans and goofies and immigrants and stuff coming in, they were called, well, that's lazy. Y'all getting all this money, y'all living good, but y'all ain't working all year, 5 days a week, 40 hours and all that shit like we are. So y'all lazy, you know what I'm saying? Like, that's goofy stuff like that. Again, if you did not want to be in a wage economy, they started to call, and you had an old Moorish economy where you was getting money and you didn't have to bust your butt like these new settlers did. Now you were lazy, you know what I'm saying? That's just the whole play. You feel me? So it said they wanted to determine the character flaws like were lazy. Now, they had a man named Charles Estabrook. He did a study from 1915 to 1922 called The Tribe of Ishmael. And we're going to read what he said. You know what I'm saying? He said the individuals in this large group of feeble-minded folk are continuing to mate like to like and reproducing their own kind. We're going to do the knowledge to that. He said they're continuing to mate like to like and reproducing their own kind. He said some few branches of the tribe made it into better stocks, but these are so few that they are hardly noticeable. The few placed in orphan homes and new environments have, in some cases, done better. But this has not changed the whole mass to any extent. The greater portion are still carcinogenic folk, as now found by McCullough, and are breeding true to type. These germplasms have now spread. So they call them. Some people sound like straight up Nazis. They talking about they call it the Moorish blood germplasms. You know what I'm saying? Like they said these let's see, what do you say? These germplasms have now spread to the whole Middle West and continuing to spread their antisocial trait of their germplasm with no check by society. And let me tell you what that's all about right there. This fool just wrote, this racist Nazi fool just wrote this article about the Ishmaelites who are the Mississippians. You know what I'm saying? He mad at the Mississippian people because we mainly mate with each other. We stick to each other. See, they go to these other countries, like these so-called Latin, Hispanic countries, and everybody mates together so much that they kind of ruin their own gene and like they merge into this fixed mulatto class. These people have always been mad at the Mississippi people in America because we largely just stick with each other. And when we maintain our we have maintained our phenotype. You know what I'm saying? They mad at us because we wouldn't mass mate and destroy our genes and ruin our genes and ruin our phenotype by like mass mating with other nationalities and stuff like that. He just said he mad because he said these feeble-minded folk continue to mate like to like and reproducing their own kind. Like why you mad? He mad at the Mississippians for reproducing our damn selves. You know what I'm saying? They always hate. They think we real racist and all that because we like to keep our babies and keep our phenotype together and mate with each other. By and large, you know what I'm saying? Some people will mix, but by and large we stick to each other. Just like these fake people calling themselves Protestants, they kind of stick in their own community or whatever. And so he was mad at us. They was mad at us back then for just wanting to mate with each other and stick to our own. And he just called the Ishmaelites antisocial. So basically that means, oh well, y'all won't bow down and treat us so-called whites like we like we want to exalt ourselves over everybody. So the light-skinned Anglo people, we want to exalt ourselves over everybody, and y'all won't bow down and treat us like we kings and gods, and we the white Jesus and all that. You know what I'm saying? Like they was mad at us back then. And they called the Ishmaelites antisocial. All that means is that we love ourselves and we like our culture and we don't give a damn about integrating with no goddamn body. We don't need approval from nobody. We're gonna stick to our damn self because we have high self-esteem in ourselves. They have always hated the Mississippi people for being that way. Everybody does, because everybody else will sit up here and integrate just to get a come up. But we Mississippians have always just had high self-esteem in our damn self. You know what I'm saying? Ain't nobody gotta like us. We ain't gotta assimilate to Jack. You know what I'm saying? We have just always been happy with being who the hell we are. And they was hating on us back then. You know what I'm saying? So check it out. And then these Nazi clowns talking about some germplasm. So they literally call Mississippian blood a germplasm. Like, come on, bro. Like, these people are just wicked, bro. You know what I'm saying? So, okay, it said they passed the sterilization laws in 1907 in Indiana plan. Basically what they said was, and y'all can look up the Indiana plan of 1907. Basically, it banned feeble-minded, insane, alcoholic, and undesirables from marrying in Indiana in 1907. And they came out with some type of book called the Racial Hygiene, a Practical Discussion of Eugenics and Race Culture. So that's how you know these people was Mississippian. Because they came out with a book. They came out with this book called, based on the Ishmaelite people, they came out with a book called Racial Hygiene, a Practical Discussion of Eugenics and Race Culture. So that's how you know they was Mississippian. You know what I'm saying? They wouldn't come out with a book of some dang old Native Americans. You know what I'm saying? Some Mongoloid Native Americans going that deep. You know, their so-called culture has always been so-called Negro or anti-Mississippian. That's been the main play in America. You know what I'm saying? So that's who they were talking about. So the Ishmaelites were Mississippian, a.k.a. Negroes. You know what I'm saying? For the most, by and large. You know what I'm saying? So, and then it said they banned feeble-minded, insane alcoholics. And then this is another thing that they was doing. Because again, the whole play after 1877 was they needed to keep us from being Moroccan Moors by any means. So you know what they would do to people? They had all these old Moorish buildings that they took over and they would convert them to like insane asylums. You know what I'm saying? So it came to a point where you could literally be a Moor and tell these Europeans I'm Moroccan. I am a Moorish Moroccan noble. in like the late 1800s, early 1900s. Don't you know these Europeans? They would take you and have your ass committed a lot of times. They will call you Clint. They will put you in an asylum and say you mentally insane. They did that to so many Moors in the late 1800s, early 1900s. If you said you was a Moor, they will put you in an insane asylum and deem you insane. You know what I'm saying? So then you were following these sterilization laws and all type of nonsense. They was doing whatever the hell they had to do. That's why nobody dressed Moorish for a long time. And everybody started like really just like the whole Negro demonstration. That became mainstream because they were doing a little slick backhanded stuff, backdoor type of stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Just crazy. You know what I'm saying? So check it out. All right, we almost through this, but we're gonna talk about that was the whole story, the official story of the Ishmael tribe and their connection to the eugenics movement and all that. But we're gonna talk about Hugo Prosper Levy. He came in the 1970s. I don't know his phenotype, but more than likely he's a Moor. He's a Moorish or whatever. But he came in the 1970s, and he wrote a book called the Ben-Ishmeal tribe in 1977. The Ben-Ishmeal, a fugitive nation of the Old Northwest. So he knew that they was a nation. He knew they was Moroccan. So they were they were the old Shawnee. They were the old Ohioans. They were the old Mississippians. They were the old Moroccans of the old Midwest Confederacy. That's all these people were. You know what I'm saying? They were the people who were still Moorish in the Midwest. You know what I'm saying? So he said he came and put the real down. He said they was Muslim, and this is from his book, 1977. He said the Ben-Ishmeals were Muslims, and they were Africans, Native Americans, and so-called poor whites, which I believe. So this is one thing the boys, your Mississippians got to understand. Even though you got a lot of this black-white type of rhetoric out here and all this, the white supremacy, blacks, whatever, you know what I'm saying, all this rhetoric, y'all can't just base everything on color and like all the way phenotype, because the Ishmaelites did have some more more Caucasian looking people with them. They weren't the majority, but they were rocking with them. And these people have always been rocking with us. So you see a lot of these hillbillies and all these people out here, you can't necessarily just go hard on them or go down on them, because a lot of these, you know what I'm saying, diss them like that. Because some of these people actually descend, again, some of these people are actually mixing their passing, you know what I'm saying? But a lot of these, some of these hillbilly type of folk, this in the back country, they poor as hell and all that stuff. Some of these people some of these people have Moorish blood. They got old type of blood and all that stuff. So you can't all the way just go with just color and all of that. Because some of these people are more American than some of these immigrants and all these other people coming in. You know what I'm saying? And some of these people actually do just have Moorish blood, and they descend from like people like the Ishmaelites and stuff like that. They over time they've been bleached out. So you have to go with people's frequency and how they carry themselves. You can't always just deal with color. You know what I'm saying? Like that's always been a play. You feel me? So now let's see, what was he saying? Okay. Now he said that okay, he talked about it. He was in his book. He said that the Ishmaelites, the Ben-Ishmeals, they were polygamous. So yeah, that's Islam. They were polygamous. So that's another thing the Europeans was hating on them, because they practiced polygamy. You know what I'm saying? So they were trying to criminalize everything Islamic. That's why polygamy is illegal in damn near every state except Utah. You know what I'm saying? But he said the Ishmaelites were polygamous. They went on Hajj-style pilgrimages around Morocco, around the Midwest. And we're going to put that map up in the thumbnail and show you the old pilgrimages the so-called Ishmaelites took across the Midwest. They went to like towns like Morocco, Indiana, Mecca, Indiana, Mahomet, Illinois. You know what I'm saying? They went to like, they came from Cincinnati. You know what I'm saying? These are old towns that they would make yearly pilgrimages to. You know what I'm saying? And that's when the Europeans was hating. They had to cut that culture down because they did not want these people moving around like that. You know what I'm saying? So he said that they took high-style pilgrimages and all over the Midwest and on a yearly basis, and they had matriarchal queens, and they avoided alcohol. You know what I'm saying? Okay. Now this is deep right here. He said that Ben-Ishmeal, the so-called Ben-Ishmeal, was an old American Islamic saint or imam of America, and he predated people like, this is what he said in his book. He said that Ben-Ishmeal predated Noble Drew Ali. He predated Fahad Muhammad, Elijah Muhammad, and a lot of these other so-called Islamic leaders that have came in like the 19th century or the 20th century and the late 19th century and all that. He said that so-called Ben-Ishmeal, who started this, who's the patriarch of this family, so-called Ben-Ishmeal tribe, he was the old Islamic saint in America. You know what I'm saying? But we're gonna do the knowledge. And he said, this is some excerpts from his book. He said that Ben-Ishmeal or Ben-Ishmeal is Arabic for son of Ishmael. You know what I'm saying? And we already know the Ishmaelites are the Moabites. You know what I'm saying? Descended from Hagar, just like the Israelites descend from Sarah, the Saracens and all that. All come from Abraham. That's the 5 and the 6. You know what I'm saying? It's just really not that deep. You know what I'm saying? That's Mississippian culture. And he also talked in his book. He talks about, and we still do the knowledge to this day. He talks about the cities along the yearly pilgrimages of the Ben-Ishmeal were Mecca, Indiana, Morocco, Indiana, and Mahomet, Illinois. Okay, so those are all old Moorish towns, all European now, because they done ran the Moors out their own damn towns. But they did pilgrimages to these towns in Indiana and Illinois. You know what I'm saying? So, you know what I'm saying? That just goes to show that Illinois, Indiana, Missouri, Wisconsin, Ohio, these are all Moorish Islamic, this old Moorish Islamic turf, man. You know what I'm saying? Like, so if you in any of those states, you gonna have to respect Islam and get your ass up out of here. You know what I'm saying? These are old Moorish zones. You dig? And now, and it said, you know, people came after that and tried to discredit. Hugo Prosper Learning's book, because they just clowns. And you had some Europeans come and try to discredit his book, talk about the Ben-Ishmeal was actually Christians, you know what I'm saying? And they were like mixed Christians and all that. No, these people hate Islam. But we already know that Hugo Prosper Learning's book was 100% accurate. You know what I'm saying? We know that just from studying the Moorish culture in America, Noble Drew Ali and everything, you know what I'm saying? But I wanted to talk about who. He said that there was an old man named Ben-Ishmeal who was an old American Islamic saint. I want y'all to know who that man was. I want y'all to look up, when y'all get a chance, Moulay, the great Moorish sultan who lived between 1672 and 1727. Okay? And we already know the great Moorish sultans were always headquartered in America, not on no damn over there in Africa. I want y'all to look up Moulay Ismail bin Sharif. Again, his name was Moulay Ismail bin Sharif. Great Moroccan sultan, had over 500 wives. You know what I'm saying? Like, he was doing it. Had over 500 wives and concubines and had, like 800 something children. You know what I'm saying? Like, he had a lot of children. So this is really who the Ben-Ishmeal tribe descends from. Again, his name was Moulay Ismail bin Sharif, an American Moroccan sultan who lived from 1672 to 1727. Look him up. That's really who Ben-Ishmeal come from. Moulay Ismail bin Sharif. You know what I'm saying? Great Moroccan sultan. And again, all these fake Pan-African goofies and all you clowns, they want you to focus on, and they want you to focus in the fake black history, they want you to focus on the Malcolm X's and all these people, Martin Luther King and, you know what I'm saying, Frederick Douglass and all this clown. But you know what I'm saying? If you really want to do the knowledge and really who you're supposed to be focusing on, you're supposed to be focusing on people like Moulay Ismail ibn Sharif. These are real American legends. You know what I'm saying? This is real Moorish history. Not no goofball going back to Africa, Martin Luther King, you know what I'm saying? All this, you know what I'm saying? All this mainstream fake history, man. Get out of here with that nonsense, man. You know what I'm saying? Oh, that's why, again, the Moors are the truth and the rest of you clowns, you know what I'm saying? Y'all literally are going to the back of the bus. Y'all are going to the back of the bus with these dunce caps. You feel me? All right, now, real quick. I wanted to talk about the Juke family of upstate New York, just real quick, you know what I'm saying? While I got some battery power left, we're going to talk about the Juke family. This was another family that was studied that contributed to the propaganda of eugenics, you know what I'm saying? Now, the Jukes, they called the Jukes, it was an upstate New York descendant from the Hill family, and they were studied as kind of like a negative Moorish family. And you already know if they were from upstate New York, these people descended. We're gonna do it like we're gonna do a drop on the Iroquois, but they descend from the old Iroquois Confederacy that dissolved. And a lot of these people were they were just displaced after that. You know what I'm saying? They were kind of put on like a lot of government aid, a lot of stuff. They were kind of tricked out of their land and all the upstate New York and all that stuff. So one of the families that descend from that was the Juke family. And again, you know they was Moorish because don't they got juke joints, they got juking dancing and all that. Come on, man, the Juke family. You know what I'm saying? So it said that. Interestingly enough, it said the Juke family descended from a frontiersman named Max, who was a Dutch settler born between 1720 and 1740. He was it said that he was the ancestor of up to 76 convicted criminals, 18 brothel keepers, 120 prostitutes, and 200 relief recipients. And all the relief recipients, this is all that was. Because we're going to do the knowledge to the Iroquois. When the Iroquois Confederacy dissolved and all that stuff, a lot of these people were put on like government, they were given government stipends, and they would, had to live on reservations. They had to give up a lot of their land in upstate New York and those areas. So a lot of them were still collecting money from the so-called government because they couldn't practice their Moorish culture no more and move around like they used to. You know what I'm saying? So they gonna denationalize these people and put them on government assistance and all that, you know what I'm saying, on these reservations. And then they gonna come in the latter half of the century after 1776 and try to kick these people off the aid after they done took their damn land. You know what I'm saying? And try to come up with some fake propaganda, you know what I'm saying, to kick them, to get them from even receiving assistance after they done took their Moorish culture away and took their land rights away. It makes all the sense in the world, don't it? Man, these people are crazy as hell, man. You know what I'm saying? So, but it said that Max was a Dutch settler. So that just goes to show that the original Dutch that came here was the Moorish Dutch, the Moorish Latin speakers coming from England. All the original Dutch was Moors. Don't get it messed up. It just said that he was a Dutch settler and a frontiersman. You know what I'm saying? And his family descended from him was called the Jukes. I don't know no damn Europeans named the damn Jukes. You know what I'm saying? Get out of here, man. So the original Dutch, New Amsterdam, New York, and all that, these was the Moors coming from Europe, the Latin-speaking Dutch Moors. You know what I'm saying? Don't get it messed up. You know what I'm saying? And it said that a lady named Margaret married one of his sons, and they called her the mother of criminals. They said that the so-called Juke family was plagued by poverty, disease, criminality, and family. And they tried to say that the Jukes cost the state of New York $1.3 million over a certain period of time. And again, this just goes to show these are old Iroquois, old Mohawks, and all these people in their European and other Europeans that was down with them who got denationalized after 1776. And again, they were like, a lot of them were receiving federal assistance, but that was only because they had gotten their land and culture taken away. You know what I'm saying? So they later in the year they trying to turncoat these people and kick them off of government assistance after they had their land and all that shit taken. I mean, it's just like these people are, again, the devil always speak with a forked tongue, you know what I'm saying? You know, but I mean, again, a lot of people probably had it coming because they had spent years, you know what I'm saying, integrating themselves and following European business practices. The Iroquois, they were doing that. But again, we're going to address that in the Iroquois drop when it's coming up. So, yeah. So I just wanted to do knowledge to the Juke family. You know what I'm saying? It was just interesting. Again, you got Juke joints and Juking. The Juke family in New York. Old Iroquois Moorish family, you know what I'm saying? And they did a study on these people and published an article about the Juke family, and that formed one of the bases of eugenics. So just goes to show that they were studying these old Moorish Islamic families up in the Midwest and the East Coast and creating the whole eugenics propaganda that became the so-called anti-black racist propaganda in the 20th century. You know what I'm saying? So, all right. Now, before I shut it down, I just wanted to do the knowledge. We've been talking about how the industrialists was hating on these people, these Moorish people, because they didn't want to participate in the wage economy. I wanted to talk about there's this ordinance that came out in 1918 in Greenville, South Carolina. And they actually, again, in old Moorish culture, our women stayed at home. You know what I'm saying? The men went out and made the money, did whatever they had to do. The women stayed at home with the children, tended to the gardens and the fields, and they had kind of a leisurely, chill lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? We took care of our women. You know what I'm saying? We kept them feminine. They didn't have to work like that. But these European communists, clowns coming up in here, got mad. You know what I'm saying? So they came up with a lot of ordinances in a lot of southern towns after 1865 that forced these so-called Negro women to work. You know what I'm saying? So literally, you could have been a sister living in a nice Victorian house on your own farm or whatever, and a dang old new settler clown female approached you, just like in Color Purple. A European would approach a Moorish sister who balling, got her own house and everything with her man living good. And this European would say, well, do you want to be my maid? Or you want to do this? And a Moorish woman would be like, man, hell to the no, get the hell out of my face, man. I'm good. I'm over here balling. What the hell? I'm balling at home, taking care of my kids with my garden and everything. I got a big ass Victorian house. What the hell I want to serve your goofy ass for? You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? Like just like Sophia did in Color Purple. You know what I'm saying? Don't you know they passed ordinances in some of these cities that forced the so-called Negro women to work? I mean, straight up communist nonsense. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to read one article about this ordinance that came out in Greenville, South Carolina in 1918. And then we're going to shut it down. You know what I'm saying? This is the type of nonsense that was going on where they had, and to this day, don't the women got careers and they not raising their children. This started way back then. Because again, in the Moorish culture, we kept our women at home. And they tended to the children. You know what I'm saying? They lived good. You know what I'm saying? That's how we used to roll. We was balling. You know what I'm saying? These Europeans would sit up here hating with their communist nonsense. You know what I'm saying? So check it out. The article says, Greenville, South Carolina, 1918. Negro women to be put to work. City ordinance soon to be passed requiring them to be regularly employed. Okay? 1918, Greenville, South Carolina. Now, it said, many complaints. These hating Europeans. It said, regardless of whether they want to or have to, able-bodied Negro women in Greenville who are not regularly employed are to be put to work, put in jail, or fined heavily. Okay? At its special meeting yesterday afternoon, City Council discussed the situation with regard to this class of loafers at some length, and it seemed that all members of council were agreed that steps should be taken to compel them to engage in some useful occupation. Okay. It was decided that an ordinance similar to the one now in force requiring all able-bodied men to work at least 5 days a week. So they was even going at the men with the nonsense, you know, at least 5 days a week should be passed with regard to these women. Such an ordinance will be prepared and voted on at the next regular meeting of council. A number of complaints have been come to member of council of Negro women who are not at work, okay? And who refuse employment when it is offered to them. All right, so don't that sound like Sophia on Color Purple when that European lady came up to her, do you want to be my maid? And Sophia was like, hell to the no, get the fuck out of my face. You know what I'm saying? That's exactly how we used to talk to these people, man. They ain't nobody. You know what I'm saying? So that was happening. That was really happening in the South. You know what I'm saying? That's crazy. So it's, all right, as the result being that it is exceedingly difficult for families who need cooks. What the fuck? Okay, excuse my French. It is exceedingly difficult for families who need cooks and laundresses to get them. So these Europeans, these settler clowns, can't take care of their damn self. They needed Moorish women to go in their houses and take care of them. Even though these Moorish women was straight in their own cribs chilling. They ain't forcing these because these settler clowns don't know how to take care of their own goddamn households, man. I mean, get out of here, man. You know what I'm saying? Communist nonsense, bro. All right, so wives of colored soldiers getting a monthly allowance from the government have a number of them declined to work on the ground that they can get along without working, according to reports. Others have flatly refused jobs without giving any reason whatsoever. What the hell? Man, bruh, come on, man. Oh, my God. While still others pretend that they are employed when, as a matter of fact, they derive a living from illegitimate means. Holy crap, bro. I mean, this is just mind-blowing, bro. The proposed ordinance will require them all to carry a labor identification card showing that they are regularly and usefully employed, and labor inspectors and police will be charged with the duty of originally enforcing the law. Whoo, man, that's a lot right there, bro. And, you know what I'm saying? That is a lot right there. So check this out. I want y'all to compare this situation to the Uyghur people in China. Literally, they got all these people in concentration camps. A lot of these people are Muslim, old school Muslim Moors in China. And they are forcing these people to work. They're forcing the women not to be at home and all that. Bruh, we done already went through that. So we done already pretty much went to the Soviet Union of the United States. They sitting up there. These are free Moorish women who got money, who's chilling at home. They man is out earning a living and taking care of the whole family. And these European angry communist clowns is coming up here. They made these people carry labor cards. That sounds like some straight up Nazi Germany, communist, Soviet Union type of mess right there. So I want y'all to understand, our people have already been through all this stuff that the rest of the world is going through. We have already been through that. We've already had a commie Marxist takeover of this country, and our people were the ones who went through that. You know what I'm saying? They literally are forcing Moorish women to work by ordinance. They hate the Moorish culture so much when we kept our women at home. And again, these industrialist settler clowns, they are not a masculine culture whatsoever. They are very effeminate goofball culture. You know what I'm saying? Like the corporate United States type of culture is very effeminate. It's not masculine or manly at all. And they hate masculine manly culture because the masculine manly culture is always Moorish. Going out, handling your business as a man and keeping your lady at home, tending to the garden with the kids, that's very masculine. It just shows you these communist industrialist carpetbagger Yankee clowns who sit up there passing ordinances, forcing Moorish women in the South to carry labor cards, bro. Come on, bro. And then they said the sisters were refusing to work because they could get along and all of that. You know what I'm saying? And they were earning deliverance by illegitimate means, which means that they probably had their own economy. They were selling their own products, doing their own thing outside of the United States jurisdiction. And so that's illegitimate to these corporate settler democratic clowns. You know what I'm saying? Like, man, get out of here, man. You know what I'm saying? So I just wanted to do knowledge to that, man. Just show that they've been on our people's ass for a long time. You know what I'm saying? And it's always anti-Moorish because the Moors are the only ones with the claims. So due to knowledge to this ordinance passed in Greenville, South Carolina in 1918, forcing the so-called Negro women to work, they've always been on us. And the nonsense we got going on now where you got a lot of sisters out here that would rather go to work, have careers, and be thoughts and do whatever they want to do instead of being at home raising children. That's when this hood rat nonsense started way back then. You know what I'm saying? So they've been on us for a long time. There's just nothing new. Okay. Anyway, we did a marathon night, due to knowledge to the Ben-Ishmeal tribe, eugenics, and due to knowledge to these ordinances over the South that forced the so-called Negro women to work. And look at our situation now, and you see that this is a long time in the making. But anyway, Sheekamauga Alamassee-El, tapping in live from Arabia. I'll tap back in with y'all later. Peace.